Welcome back. This video is in continuation to the DP-203 series. In this one, I will talk about um, Azure Synapse Serverless SQL pools, dedicated SQL pools, and external entities. When I say external entities, I mean external data source, external file format, external tables, etc. And then I will do a quick lab on these things. Now, before starting, let me introduce myself. I'm Sushil. I have more than a decade of industry experience. I'm a certified cloud and DevOps expert, and I'm passionate about fitness and technology. And I share my knowledge using my blog, thetechguy.in. Now, this one will be mostly, I just want to clear your concepts about serverless and dedicated SQL pool because you should know what these concepts mean, and also about the external entities, because in my lab, I want to show you how you can run queries, how you can read JSON files, how you can read parquet files or CSV files using serverless pool. And I also want to show you how you deal with those external entities. Now, before starting, what really is serverless SQL pool? Now, if you haven't seen my previous videos, in my previous videos, I walked you, I walked through the Azure Synapse UI, and I told you where you can see SQL pool, etc., which I'll do again. But when you create an Azure Synapse Analytics workspace, a default serverless SQL pool is already created. So every Synapse Analytics comes with serverless SQL pool, where you can use the SQL pool to query your data in Azure Data Lake. That is what we are going to do in our lab. So you can use it to query data in data lake. Now file format can be parquet, it can be data lake, it can be delimited text format, which is mostly CSV. You can have other delimited factors also. You can have JSON, etc. Also you can have files in Cosmos DB, Dataverse, etc. Now, serverless SQL pool, what really is serverless SQL? Now, serverless SQL pool, it is a query service which is over the data in your data lake. Now, serverless SQL does not really persist any data as such. It doesn't really have any. You cannot really store your data in the columnar or row format just like any other database. Here you query service. This is a query service which helps you query data which is in your data lake or other location where your data is stored. Now, how you do it? You do it using your familiar TSQL transactional SQL commands, or you can use your notebooks, etc., to do it. Now, what is the benefit? The benefit is that it gives you functionality of basic discovery and explanation. It is a logical data warehouse because you can run queries and you can use your data transformations, etc. Now, how it is really different from dedicated SQL pool? Now, dedicated SQL pool, formerly in my previous video, I told you, right? Formerly, it was known as Data Warehouse, SQL Data Warehouse. Now, it has been renamed to Azure Synapse, or basically dedicated SQL pool, because see, in serverless SQL pool, you do not really persist any data. It is used to fetch, not actually fetch. It is used to query data which is residing somewhere else. But in dedicated SQL pool, you really persist your data, right? So dedicated SQL pool represents the collection of analytic resources that are provisioned when using Synapse SQL. But once your dedicated SQL pool is created, you can import your data using poly-based TSQL commands, and then your dedicated SQL pool stores data in relational table with columnar storage. So that is the one of the biggest difference between dedicated and serverless SQL pool. The other thing that I want to talk about is Azure Synapse external entities. If you have gone through the training, you already would have dealt with these things. In Synapse, you can use something called external table. Now, what external table does is it points to the data located somewhere else, as the name suggests. It points to the data located externally. The data might be located in Hadoop, it might be located in storage, I mean blob, data lake, etc., etc. Now, along with external tables, to make things easier, to make things simple, you can use something called external file format. Now, external file format, you actually specify what will be the file format, whether it will be CSV, whether it will be JSON, or will it be parquet, etc. So file format actually defines what will be the file format, and then the data source all defines where your data will be located. So it tells you how to establish connectivity, etc. So basically it tells you where your external data source is. So if you're using external table, it's not necessary to use external file format and data source. But again, if you're using external table, why not use file format and data source? So you can create a data source, you can create a file format, and when we are creating external table, when you create external table, when you're querying, while querying data from that external table, you can tell that this is the file format to refer, and this is the data source to refer. Now we'll jump back in the lab. What will we cover in the lab? I already have created a Synapse. I'll walk you through the files that I have in data lake. We'll run some queries to fetch data from, or to view data from CSV, transformer view, whatever you want to call, CSV, parquet, and JSON, and then we will create external entities. We'll create external data source, external table, and then we will also visualize the data that we have in those files or on those locations. Okay, now let me open my portal. Now, this is my Azure portal. I've already created my Synapse Workspace. Let's go to Synapse Workspace. How do you really load your Synapse Workspace? You can go to load. You can go to web space web URI, and it will take you to the Synapse web URI. Let it open. Okay, so it has loaded. Now this is the section where we do all our heavy lifting, or where we do what we want to do. We can use home for this home page, we can use data, develop, integrate, etc. We will go to data, and I want to show you my linked uh, service, which is my data lake storage account. Now in the data lake storage account, this is the folder, and in this one I have my sales folder, in which I've moved CSV file, JSON, and Parquet, because I want to query those files. Now what I can do is I can just use this to run the queries, or I can just view. Now let's do this. Now let me go to CSV. Let me do this. Or in fact, I mean, I've done this in the previous video, but I'll again do this. And I can, if I want to quickly preview, I can preview my CSV file, and it will tell me. Now if you see, I do not really have header here, right? I mean, so basically this is one of the entity, right? This is not a header. We'll see what I mean, but this is what you can do. Now let's do this. Let me go to this, and this is where I have all my SQL files, CSV files. I can um, query. I can use select. I can use new SQL script and select top 100 rows. What it does, it gives me a format, and then I can edit it based on my. So this is the text format. That is what I will choose and apply. Now, what it is doing, I explain. Open row set is used to read data from external files. Open row and bulk does that. Format tells it is CSV. Parser version is 2.0. 1.0 is a little older. 2.0 is latest. And then we have this thing. Now, if I run this, this will tell me. it is running the query. Okay, now let me rename this, or for example, I told you, right, this, it doesn't really have a header, so it selected a random name. Now what I can do is I can customize this query. I can tweak this query, and I can do something like this. This is my thing. And what I'm doing is now I'm selecting top 100. This is where my file is. File format is CSV. Parser version I want to use 2.0 with my sales order. So this is my column name that I'm giving. It starts with sales order number. This is my sales order number, line number, etc. And this is the collation that I want to use. Because we are using external serverless pool, we want to tell what collation we want to use. And now if I run it, I have my header, or I have the first line that is having all the header values. Now similarly, or for example, let me rename this CSV query, and let me publish. Now we'll go back to files, and we'll go to Parquet, and we will do new SQL, select top 100, and then we will choose the Parquet format, and we apply. Now it's the same thing. Parquet. See, one more thing. We can't really preview Parquet files, because Parquet is basically. Sorry, the Parquet is basically a compressed file, I would say. So what I can do is I can really do this, and if I run this, it will query, and it will give me all this, all the content that I have in Parquet. Now let me modify this little bit, and I want to group it, because eventually we want to preview, right? We want to analyze all the data. So I do this, and I run. Now what I'm doing is I'm grouping by year and order year. So in 2019, I have these many orders. 2020, this. So this is how you query your Parquet. In Parquet, you just mention your file format is Parquet. In CSV, you really mention your file format is CSV. But for JSON, it is little different. Let me Parquet query, publish this query also. Now for JSON, it is little different. Now if I go to JSON, see CSV, it had text Parquet, it had text Parquet. In this one, I really do not have a format called JSON. So what I do is I choose text, and what I do is for text, for JSON, you can actually memorize this, because there is no other way to do it, and that is how it works for JSON. In JSON, we really choose the file format as CSV, but we use field terminator 0x0b, field code as 0x0b, and row terminator as 0x0b, with doc and varchar max as rows. That is how you query your JSON files. Okay, so we do this, and that is how I query my JSON files. Now I can also select, and I can customize this. Now if I want to customize, I can this, and I do this. And what I'm doing is, for example, if you see this, and my sales order number is what has the sales order. If you have seen JSON files, if you haven't, in JSON file, it is basically key value pair. So my key is sales order number, value is SO43700, and similarly my customer name and customer key value pair. Now what I'm doing is I'm selecting JSON value, select JSON value. This is my doc, because I'm using the doc and varchar. So this I'm naming as doc. and dollar dot all the sales order number will be named as order number. All the customer name will be named as customer. So I can really customize and I can run my JSON query, and this is how I'll get my sales order number, customer, and rest all it did not really do anything because that's how I did it, and the rest is doc. So this is how you query your JSON, this is how you query your parquet, and this is how you query your CSV files. So I'll publish this also. Now, next thing what I want to show is, let me create a new data. See, we are in data, right? In data, we see all the links. So we do not really see an option to create a query. So that is where what we can do in develop. Now, these are all the queries that I published. And now I click on create new SQL script and I'll tell you what I'm doing. Now I'm creating an external I'm creating a database. First of all, I do not really have any database, right? If I go to data and I go to I do not really see database here, right? I do not really see any database. So I'm creating a database and my collation is this, and then I choose that I want to use sales, and then I create an external data source that I told you, right? Now external data source is basically referring to my this connection. So I do this, I run conditions. Okay, publish, because I want to save all these queries, so I'm publishing it. Now I still won't see anything unless I refresh. So let me refresh. Refresh is on the right hand side. I can click on refresh, it will refresh, and now I see my SQL database. My sales is this is the sales database that I created. And if you see the external resources, in external resources you see the external data source. My external data source is sales data. I do not really have anything else right now. So that is how you create your external data source. Now what I do is, if I want to see, now what I do, select star from open row set. If you see this, select star from open row set. We were mentioning all this location, right? Now this is what I've created. I've created my external data source till sales. This is what my data source is. So till sales is my data source. So I do not really have to type or remember this entire every time. I've created my external data source. Now what I do is I'm choosing my external data source as sales data, and then I choose my bulk as CSV star.csv. That is what I'm doing, /CSV. So I would have chosen, I could have created /CSV also here and then done it, but I don't want to do it because I want to use it for CSV, parquet, all the folders and everything, right? So I'm doing this, my bulk is this, my data source is this, format is this, and blah blah. So it is basically doing the same thing, right? But it makes life easy, right? I create an external data source and I'm doing this. It's the same thing. Now if I want to make it even simpler, I can create an external table and external me find okay. Now let me create an external table, and before external table I want to show you external file format. Now I've created external file format. My file format I named as CSV format. My format type is delimited, format option blah blah blah, field terminator because this is CSV, and string delimiter is this. Now I create my external file format. Right? What I want to show you, see, I've created external data source, external file format. Publish this because I don't want to save my lose my query, and I still don't see it because I have to refresh. I refresh this in my SQL, in my external resources, external file format, and this is the file format that I've created. Now what I do is I create an external table. Right now I do not have any table, right? Because I haven't created any table. I create a table called DB is my schema and orders is my order name, table name. This is the schema that I will be using. These are all the columns and everything. Now things to keep note is data source. I'm telling my data source is sales data, which means this is what I want to query. my location is this, and my file format is CSV. Now I don't have to mention every time that my file format is this. So I do this. It's doing the same thing, but doing in a simple way. Now if I refresh, see, table and script this run. So what I did, I created an external table. I created an external table with all the CSV files that I had there. Got it? So this is how you do it. And now I can also visualize. I can go to chart and I can probably do columnar, and I want to, for example, do with order date. So I can really visualize, and I can do whatever I want, quantity, or for example, item. I want to do with the item name. So that is how you do it, and that is how you query your different file formats, and that is how you create the external entities. I hope this video helped. If there is anything else that you want me to cover, please feel free to note down in the comment section, and I will try to cover. Have a good day. Thank you. Bye.